Hi everybody, and welcome back to video number 4 in chapter 9. And when we left off, we were looking at this labor example to manufacture one zippy. And you may remember we have 1.5 standard hours per zippy at $12 per direct labor hour. And we used 1,550 direct labor hours that we actually worked at a total cost actual of $18,910 to make 1,000 zippies. Okay, so if I continue, what would be the labor rate variance? That's going to be our left-hand side of our graphic. So what we're going to do is $310 unfavorable. And we would calculate that by taking our actual rate of $12.20 subtracted from our standard rate of $12 times the total 1,500 hours. And that gives me $310 unfavorable. Now, if you're like me, this is difficult to follow. So we again will look at the labor efficiency variance. And for labor efficiency, that's the right-hand side of our graphic, it's going to be 600 unfavorable. And again, that's going to be the $12 times the difference between our actual and the allotted standard in hours. So this, to me, is much easier to follow. And here we have our actual, and we calculate that again. Here's our total hours, and we know that it costs $18,910, so I can back into the $12.20 per hour. And then on the standard side, my 1,500 hours was calculated by taking the 1,000 zippies times the that's the actual zippies that we made, times the standard rate of 1.5 hours per zippy. And that gives us 18,000. So if I compare that, my rate variance is unfavorable, my efficiency variance is unfavorable, as we calculated in the prior two slides. So now we move into the variable manufacturing overhead rate and efficiency variances and explaining their significance. And here you'll remember we had 1.2 standard hours per parka at $4 per hour. And so that last month we actually worked 2,500 hours to make 2,000 parkas. The actual variable manufacturing overhead for the month was 10,500. So we essentially set this up the same way. Here is our actual hours, and here's our total 10,500, which we've got here given in the problem, the actual variable overhead, and we can back into the $4.20 per hour. Now over on the right-hand side, our standard rate, you'll remember, was 1.2 hours times the 1,000 zippies that we made to get the 2,400 standard hours, and our standard rate was $4 per hour. So if we multiply that all through, and we have our actual hours here and our standard rate here, we are $500 unfavorable as far as our variable manufacturing overhead, and $400 unfavorable for our standard, our efficiency variance with variable manufacturing overhead. Okay, so now how did we get those numbers? The same way we've been doing it. We calculate the 2,400 hours that we had. That was the 1.2 hours per parka. That was our standard. But our actual parkas manufactured was 2,000. So that gave us a standard of 2,400 hours times the $4 that was given as our standard rate, labor rate. And over here, same thing. We took the 10,500 and divided that by 2,500 hours to get the $4.20 per hour. So I think you're getting the rhythm of how we're doing this. It's going to take a little practice. And I think if you do that and you stay true to these graphics that I'm showing you, you won't get confused. Again, we're going to put actual over here. We're going to put standard over here. We'll take the actual quantity, in this case hours, and the standard rate here. Okay, now we can reduce that to variance or for equations, and I think there's no surprise here. We come up with the same numbers, and I'll let you think about that for a second. I think that's pretty clear. We've been doing that the same way for the material and labor overhead, or material and labor variances, as well as for the variable manufacturing overhead here. Okay, so let's do some quick checks. Hansen has the following variable manufacturing overhead standard to manufacture one zippy. Here we have 1.5 standard hours per zippy at $3 per direct labor hour. And last week we made 1,550 hours to make 1,000 zippies, and $5,115 was spent for variable manufacturing overhead. So we can lay that into the rate variance, the left-hand side in the graphics, and that's going to come out to 465 unfavorable. If we use the equation formatting here, we get that $465 unfavorable. If you're good with this, I'm fine. For me, I find this a little more difficult than actually thinking about it in terms of the graphic that we've been putting in. So again, our efficiency variance, that's going to be the right-hand side of the graphic, and it's going to be 150 unfavorable. And it shows you how we got the 1,500 hours at standard, and then we multiply that through actual minus standard hours. Okay, now here is a much easier way, I think, to understand it. Here's our actual hours. Here's our actual total. And we divide the actual total by 1,550 to get $3.30 per hour. Over on the standard side, we had 1,500 hours, and that's the 1.5 times 1,000. And then our standard was $3 per hour. And so we can compute then our rate and efficiency variance. Rate is going to be on the left side. Efficiency is going to be on the right side. Okay. Again, we bring our actual quantity, in this case hours, and our standard rate of $3 per hour. Okay. So, in important subtleties, it says here, the quantity variance is computed only on the quantity used in production. It's not necessarily the price variance is computed on the entire quantity that we purchased. Okay, very important here. Quantity variance is computed only on the quantity that we used in production, where the price variance is computed on the entire quantity that we purchased. Okay, now, so again, coming back to the Glacier Peak Outfitters example, they have the following direct material standard for the fiber fill in its mountain parka. And again, it was 0.1 kilograms of fiber fill per parka at $5 per kilogram. And last month, 210 kilograms of fiber fill were purchased at a cost of $1,029, and Glacier used 200 kilograms to make 2,000 parkas. And as you can see, we're going to use the price variance. We're going to be using what we actually used here, what we actually purchased. But the materials quantity variance is going to be based on what we actually used. We used 200 kilograms. And so our quantity variance is 0 in this case. Everybody see that? So I come back here, and here is the subtlety. They used 200 kilograms. They purchased 210. So you can see that's what we've done here. And here's what we used here. Very important. Okay, so now if I look at that from the standpoint of material price variance, I get the $21 favorable. That's as we've been doing it. But here, what we used was 200 kilograms, a little bit less in quantity than what we, but a little bit more than our actual quantity, our actual cost. A little bit, I get a little bit more from my standard price than what I actually used over here. Okay. Okay, everybody see that? So now we've split this into 4 pieces instead of 3. On the left side is our purchases, and our right side is what we used. Okay. That is the end of chapter 4. And when we continue, we'll move on to chapter 10. Until that time, bye for now.